Hi guys, my name is Anastasia Katagarova and I am dietetic intern. So the book that I chose today is called Crucial Conversations and Tools for Talking When the Stakes Are High. And there's a lot of copies were made of this book and sold. There are 4 authors, Patterson, Graney, Macmillan, and Switzer. And this pretty much talks about good communication, especially in the workforce. The reason why I chose this book is because actually the lady in our HR recommended this book, and my manager as well. She said it changed her life, the way she communicates with her employees. So I was really curious and I wanted to read it. The book is about 250 pages long, and what the authors are talking about is crucial conversations, and they define crucial conversations as a conversation discussion between 1 or 2 people, and when obviously conversation is heated, and it's going to be when the stakes are high and when opinions vary and when emotions run strong. How can we have that good conversation that's not out of control? So the more crucial the conversations, the likely it is will be uncomfortable for us. For example, having that very awkward conversation with your roommate and asking them to repay a loan, or ending a relationship, or asking your supervisor or manager, give a feedback to your supervisor or your manager. All these conversations, this type of conversations can be very awkward, and I'm sure you can agree with that. If we did not learn how to handle those crucial conversations, it will really affect every aspect of our life, from personal to our career to even our health. So when the stakes are high and when the conversation gets really heated and very uncomfortable, this book talks about the ways where we know what to do and how to handle that. I like how the author talks about relationships and talks about how so many relationships are broken, not because we couldn't avoid it, but because they are broken by the silence that we hold whenever we do not want to communicate what the problem is. So, and I also like that saying is, if you don't talk it out, you act it out. So the crucial conversation have 7 principles. The first principle is dialogue. And dialogue is pretty much free flow of speech between 1 or 2 or more people. And the first point that they're talking about, the book talks about, is pretty much start with your heart. And what they're referring to is that everything starts with you. And that's one thing that I liked about this book, is that we're not trying to blame the conversation that we're having, or if it gets really ugly, we're not trying to blame it on other person, but we're always looking at ourselves. So the second principle is called learn to look, and it focuses on, we always have to be on the guard, we always have to look around and assess our situation when we're having that conversation. Notice that safety. Is your safety at risk? You must be alert and realize that the difference between a harmless conversation and when the conversation turns into a crucial one, that's what we have to be aware of. Look at things like physical and emotional state of the person. How are they acting? How is their body language? Are they crying? Are they getting angry and getting red in the face? This is what we need to be aware of. The third one, as I mentioned before, is make it safe. Our goal is to make a safe space for the conversations. Once you identify the unsafe space, just step out, make it safe, then get it back in there and continue a conversation. So the fourth point is master your stories, and pretty much how do we manage our emotions. So if we can find a way to control the stories that we tell, which is our conversation that we're having, then we're able to control the situation, and not in a negative way. We're able to rethink it and retell the story if need to, pretty much to be in control of our emotions at all time. The fifth point is state your path. So share your facts and tell your story. And my puppy's playing. Ask for others' opinions. How do they feel? Talk about how they feel. Let them communicate it back to you. Care about their emotional state. Like I said, it's always good to just stop if you feel like the conversation is get out of hand. Just stop, rethink, make that space safe again, and get back into it. The sixth one is explore others' path, and it just pretty much talks about asking them how do they feel, how does this making them feel, get their perspective, rephrase, mirror their actions, paraphrase what they're saying, make sure they understand that you actually care. And it's pretty much kind of like we talked in our community, in our class for nutrition education, where we pretty much have to paraphrase what the client is saying. This is pretty much what this principle is talking about, to make that employee or whoever you're communicating, or your spouse, to make them safe and make them feel like you actually paying attention to what they're saying and what their concerns are, and you paraphrasing them. And the last principle is called make it to action. So it's pretty much talking about the conversation. Once you're done talking, that's not the end of it. You have to figure out who's doing who's doing what, when is it due, by when, and how do they follow up. That's pretty much mainly applies with your employees or at the workplace. Once you discuss a crucial conversation with somebody, trying to figure out like what do you expect from them. Don't just finish the conversation. Make them be accountable to what's expected of them or what changes need to be made, and set the date, set the due date, deadline, and so on, and make sure everybody knows who's responsible for what. That way everything is clear. So I like the book. I felt like it was very repetitive. I felt like it was too many examples in it, too many scenarios. I feel like almost to the point, like, let's get to the point. So I feel like the book could have been half the size if they include all the examples that they included and all the little stories and things like that. Other than that, I feel like the book had really good, overall, book is great, but I feel like, oh yeah, I've heard of this before, already learned this before. And pretty much everything I've learned in nutrition education over the summer, this is pretty much the same principles. So other than that, the book is great, but will I read it again? No. Thank you guys so much for listening to my presentation. Have a great weekend.